Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal Algérie. I'm your host, Maysa Dumas, to the headlines. In a tweet, the President of the Republic congratulated the national football team for its qualification for the Arab Cup of 2022. Algeria's national football team has beaten Moroccan team and qualified for the semi-finals of the 2022 Arab Cup in Qatar. On the occasion of the 61st anniversary of December 11, 1960 demonstrations, President Tebboune highlights the fact that these events are undeniable proof of the strength of our glorious revolution and unrefutable indication of the end of French occupation of Algeria. The first government meeting ever held outside of the government's palace. Ministers have their work cut off for them as it will concern the relaunching of several health projects and put local development on the agenda of several government sectors. And the works of the seminar for heads of missions and technical delegates of the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games of Oran starts in Saturday in the presence of the advisor to the President of the Republic, Abdelhafid Allahom, and Sport Minister Abdelrazak Sebgag. Right after the national football team's qualification to the semi-finals of the FIFA Arab Cup of 2022 on his Twitter account, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated our national football team, saying, quote, "A million and half a million congratulations to our heroes," end of quote. The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Major General Saeed Shingriha, extended his warmest congratulations to the players after their wonderful and heroic performance, wishing them more future victories. Algeria's national football team has beaten Moroccan team and qualified for the semi-finals of the 2022 Arab Cup in Qatar. The national squad won after they played out 5-4 on penalties after the end of the match, a match held Saturday at the Al Thumama Stadium in Doha. Algeria opened the scoring through Yassine Brahimi at the 62nd minute. Youssef Belaili scored the second goal at the 96th minute. In his message on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of December 11th, 1960 demonstrations, President Tebboune highlighted the fact that these events were, from an organizational point of view, an undeniable proof of the strength of our glorious revolution, an unrefutable indication of the end of French occupation of Algeria. On the diplomatic and media fronts, these demonstrations confirmed the positions of the provincial government of the Republic of Algeria and gave hope to the Algerian oppressed people after the adoption during the 15th session of the UN General Assembly of a resolution calling for decolonization and declaring that the subjection of peoples to foreign demonstration and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights and is contrary to the United Nations Charter. Also, on this occasion, President Tebboune put forward the high symbolism of holding in the province of Naama of the official celebrations of this memorable anniversary, as they also compressed a national symbolism on Sheikh Bouamama as the historic symbol of popular resistance in Algeria's southwest. He further underlined that this symposium was an opportunity to honor the memory of a unique and exceptional man with regard to his knowledge, his works, his faith, and his resistance, describing him as a charismatic leader and a visionary politician gifted with exceptional capacities in strategic organization and military planning. The President of the Republic also affirmed that the sacred, timeless message passed on by Sheikh Bouamama and all the heroes of Algeria's popular resistance has always been heavy with meanings and could now and could still nowadays unify Algerian people and consolidate its cohesion with the National People's Army to form a striking force capable of meeting the challenges and honor the noble values and ideals that forged the Algerian people throughout centuries of Algeria's glorious history. Still on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the demonstrations of December 11th, 1960, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, marked the event by tweeting, quote, "I bow with respect to the sacrifices of all Algerians during one of the most glorious and epic uprisings of the Algerian people, as today is an anniversary which marks, among many others, its resolution and determination to recover its national sovereignty and always honor the memory of its glorious martyrs," end of quote. In accordance with the instructions of the President of the Republic, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman will chair on Sunday a government meeting which for the first time will not be held in Algiers but in the province of Khenchla, eastern Algeria. This meeting will be devoted to examining and discussing the roadmap relating to the implementation of the Complementary Development Program for the province of Khenchla as approved during a recent meeting of the Council of Ministers. As indicated in this press release, this is the first government meeting ever held outside of the government's palace. Ministers have their work cut out for them, as it will concern the relaunching of several halted projects and put local development on the agenda of several government sectors. Details with Manal Maafa.
Following the instructions of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and for the first time since independence, the government meeting was relocated to Khenchla province, a move which aims to open up this latter. During the last government meeting and in the presence of governors, the President of the Republic insisted on the need to join together the necessary conditions to develop this area, which not only needs rehabilitation but also lacks several facilities. He further added that Khenchla province needs additional kilometers of railroads and dual carriageways to be eventually connected to the neighboring provinces and the East-West Highway.
لازمها برنامج تاع استدراك. ولاية خنشلة أنا شفتها مرارا، التزمت، معزولة، محتاجة مرافق، محتاجة كذا، محتاج تشوف بابار، تشوف قيس، فايز، بولفرايز، تشوف بوحمامة، تشوف يابوس، تشوف هذه، يعني ما هيش مناطق اللي ما لازمها إعادة النظر وإعادة الهيكلة وفورا. باقي لها 12 ولا 13 كيلومتر تاع سكة حديدية حتى تخرج من العزلة تاعها، وازدواجية الطريق بين خنشلة وباتنا حتى تلتحق بالطريق السيار. يعني تتوفر فيها كل مقاييس نتاع العزلة ونتاع. ماذا بينا في أقرب وقت لما البرنامج تاع خنشلة ينضج تتنقل الحكومة في عين المكان وتاخذوا القرارات في عين المكان، تكون أول اجتماع تاع الحكومة خارج العاصمة.
A new strategy that aims to concretize the government's projects on the ground and instill a new dynamic for economic revival across the country in several sectors, and that according to a foreseeable vision starting with Khenchla province, and this as part of the policy of regional balance.
السيد رئيس الجمهورية أوصى الحكومة بعقد أول اجتماع للحكومة.
The President of the Republic gave instructions for the holding of the first government meeting in Khenchla, a strategy that will boost this region's economic sector. This meeting will also be held in other provinces. This will also allow the supervision of the development projects through several regions of the country, in addition to creating a dynamic in the economic activity of the region, and allow the authorities to know the projects planned for the region where the meeting of the government will be held.
مركزية على مختلف البرامج التنموية.
This first meeting, organized in the province of Khenchla, will bring several important decisions, notably concerning the complementary development program, taking into account the requirements of this province to improve the living conditions of its inhabitants.
The improvement of the living conditions of the inhabitants passes by the agricultural development. The potentialities are impressive despite the lack of means, which penalizes several farmers to sell their products towards the other provinces. Ines Killoum.
After the strong demand for the corn, especially fodder corn, COSIDER launched investment projects in the sector. A large area has been allocated for the cultivation of corn in the Nemamshat Desert of Khenchla province. As part of the agricultural production diversification program, COSIDER Agrico has specialized in forage cultivation with a capacity of 240 hectares. When it comes to apple production, Khenchla province has established itself as the leader in this sector, a sector that has become a source of income for many families, despite the obstacles related to access to water, rural electricity, and the availability of cold storage rooms. We asked the public authorities to build cold storage rooms in order to support farmers in picking up their goods throughout the year, and we also want financial assistance to get cold storage rooms. The creation of agricultural cooperatives is therefore a necessity to promote apple cultivation and solve the problems of farmers.
Khenchla province has recently benefited from several rehabilitation projects which will help to revive the region. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
Khenchla province has recently benefited from several rehabilitation projects, such as 3 dual carriageways projects linking the region to the neighboring provinces. The public works sector at the level of Khenchla manages many investment operations, which exceeds 90 million Algerian dinars. This operation includes modernization, rehabilitation and maintenance. Among these projects, the dual carriageway of the national road number 88 on 18 kilometers. These big projects will relieve and help the road users. The province has benefited from decisions taken by the authorities, at their head the President of the Republic, and it will benefit soon from a second operation which will concern the realization of dual carriageway of the national road number 80, which will link the city of Khenchla to the city of Babar. It will also benefit from dual carriageway of the national road number 32, which connects the municipality of Mahmel and Oulad Rashash over 20 kilometers length with an amount of 20 million Algerian dinars. These projects are part of the modernization of the roads network to boost economic development in this region.
The tourism potentialities of Khenchla are known. Thanks to its tourism, the province attracts the Algerians and foreigners. Hammam Salhin has reopened its doors after more than a year of closure. The visitors are numerous but deplore the lack of infrastructures and the lack of choices. Ines Killoum.
A touristic and thermal location par excellence, Hammam Salhin Desert, located in the region of Al-Hamma in Khenchla, which made this province famous, in need of a tourist investment project. Its origin goes back to more than 2,000 years. Hammam Salhin, or Aqua Flaviana, according to the name given to it by the Romans, it was previously called Teveza or Tebeza, which is the Libyan name and external name for the Roman name Aqua Flaviana, because the Romans discovered it in the first centuries. The bath was exploited by the Numidians and then by the Romans. Highly appreciated for the quality of its mineral-rich water, Hammam Salhin resumes its activities after 2 years of closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. We receive between 1,000 and 2,000 visitors daily, and we try every day to improve our services. Although it conceals important tourist potential, Khenchla remains one of the most disadvantaged provinces in these fields. This province has great potential, especially in terms of tourism infrastructure. And today we have a challenge to take up, which is investing in this region, which will enhance the tourism capacities of this province. The dismantling of investment projects, especially tourism projects that have been frozen for administrative reasons, will allow this province to break out of its isolation.
To Oran, where preparations are continuing to host the Mediterranean Games. 186 hotels with international standards ready to welcome the athletes and tourists. More details with Laetitia Sadqawi.
Ce séminaire sera l'occasion pour vous de découvrir.
This seminar will be the opportunity for you to discover the preparation of many years done by the Algerian Organizational and Investment Committee. Our Algerian friends have worked with a goal in mind to offer Mediterranean athletes the best conditions to participate in competitions that allow them to achieve their most brilliant performances. For those, everything has been implemented: a modern and comfortable Mediterranean village and sports facilities of a best level, which will remain to Oran's inhabitants as a legacy. All the necessary logistics means are provided to guarantee a good stay in this beautiful city.
Et un bon séjour dans cette belle ville d'Oran.
A strong message that reflects the satisfaction of the International Committee of Mediterranean Games and representative of national Mediterranean committees, less than 200 days before the opening of the 19th edition. Oran province displays its strength and promise above all a premier event that will mark the minds.
Permettez-moi, mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to testify before you the unlimited commitment of all the members of the organizing committee of the Mediterranean Games of Oran. You have already been able since our arrival to appreciate the hospitality on behalf of the population of Oran and Algeria in order to open relentlessly to make these games unforgettable for you and your representatives during the 19th edition of these games.
lors de la 19e édition de ces joutes,
This seminar, which constitutes a final stretch for the organizers, also includes coordination meetings of different commissions and visits to the accommodation sites and sports infrastructures, refereeing the competitions for 12 days starting from June 25, 2022.
The works of the seminar of heads of missions and technical delegates of the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games of Oran started on Saturday in the presence of the advisor to the President of the Republic, Abdelhafid Allahum, and Sports Minister Abdelrazak Sibgag, a seminar to watch over the last preparations for these games. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
6 months separating us from the Mediterranean Games to be hosted by the province of Oran, a touristic destination by excellence. Preparations are well underway to welcome the people from the Mediterranean area who want to attend the Games. We hope that these Mediterranean Games held in Oran will be up to the task. We will be welcoming a lot of tourists and athletes. It's a great plus for Algeria. The province of Oran has put all necessary material and human resources to assure hotel infrastructures with international standards in order to succeed the organization of this important sport event with an international value. Currently, the province of Oran has 186 hotels with a capacity of 18,369 beds with a service of high quality at the standards of big hotels internationally. The start of these Mediterranean Games is expected by the 25th of June 2020, which Oran will be ready to host, especially with these infrastructures that will make the Algerian heritage more known and at the same time introduce Oran to the populations of the Mediterranean area.
In the diplomatic activity, Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Mtan Al-Amamra held on Saturday morning a working session with the Croatian Foreign Affairs Minister Gordon Grlic Radman, who is on a two-day visit to Algeria. The discussions between the two parties were extended to the delegations from both countries to strengthen the bilateral relations in all fields and issues of common interest. A memorandum of understanding for diplomatic collaboration was signed between the Institute of Diplomacy and International Relations of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad Ministry and the Diplomatic Academy of Croatian Foreign Affairs Ministry. After this hearing, the two ministers made the following statements. Let's have a listen.
This visit of the head of the Croatian diplomacy in Algeria comes after a series of sessions of political consultations between the general secretaries of the ministries of foreign affairs of the two countries, aiming at promoting cooperation, coordination and dialogue between the two countries and gradually expand them to several sectors. This visit will also contribute to the realization of two main objectives. The first concerns the deepening of political understanding around the main questions of common interest and the reinforcement of bilateral and diplomatic cooperation between the two parties. There is also a possibility of the signing of another convention on the creation of an Algerian-Croatian to sanction business council. Other agreement on the creation of a business council, Algerian-Croatian, to ratify the work of the business forum scheduled tomorrow between the two parties. I wish that this meeting will contribute to the activation of this council and give the bilateral relations the wished economic dimension to further develop the relation between the two countries, and that in various sectors where Croatia has what to offer in terms of added value.
You know that Croatia is traditional and is present in Algeria. Also in former Yugoslavia, the Croatian companies were here. And I think so that right now, and there are a lot of potentials and a lot of new fields, topics of cooperation, like mariculture, agriculture, infrastructure, traffic infrastructure, energy, and shipbuilding, for example. I presented also to my colleague, Minister, letter of intent from Brodosplit.
War veteran Minister Laïd Erbiqa kicked off the festivities of the commemoration of the demonstrations of December 11th, 1960 from Nama province. A symposium and historical craft exhibition are also organized. The details with Leticia Setqawi.
War Veterans Minister gave the official launch for the occasion of the festivities marking the 61st anniversary of the demonstrations of December 11th, 1960. Thanks to these demonstrations, the voice of the Algerian people was more audible at the international level. They were a real turning point in the struggle for national liberation. The remains of the martyrs Zahzouh Qaddour and Ghalib Qaddour have also been reburied. A symposium of the symbols of popular resistance in southwestern Algeria, Sheikh Bouamama, was arranged and chaired by Minister Laïd Erbiqa to remember his journey. We take advantage of this occasion, which is the commemoration of the demonstrations of December 11th, to remember the popular resistance in the great southwest of Algeria, but above all to pay tribute to one of its symbols, Sheikh Mohammed bin Arabi, also known as Bouamama. The current situation pushes us to double the efforts to preserve the achievements of the nation and its institutions and honor the memory of our martyrs. We count on our youngsters to meet the challenge and be at the service of the country. We ask our young people to take up the torch in order to preserve our country in its dignity. This commemoration was also an opportunity to launch solidarity caravans for the benefit of the landlocked regions of the province of Nama, and also the organization of historical and handmade exhibitions.
As part of the festivities commemorating the 61st anniversary of the December 11th, 1960 demonstrations and in implementation of the decision of the High Command of the National People's Army to name the structures and units of the AMP after the martyrs and war veterans of the glorious Liberation War, Major General Mohammed Saleh bin Bisha, Secretary General of the naming ceremony of the headquarters of the Social Service Directorate of the Ministry of National Defense in Algiers, of the name of the late war veteran Belkhair Bakhouch, in the presence of the central directors and senior staff of the MND. The Secretary General of the MND, accompanied by the Director of the Social Service, proceeded to the inauguration of the commemorative plaque in the presence of the late's family. He then visited an exhibition of historical photographs commemorating the demonstrations of December 11, 1960, as well as images relating to various facilities and structures of the social service of the AMP. At the end of this ceremony, the Major General, Secretary General of the MND, honored the members of the family of the deceased and gave them a symbolic gift. In a joint statement released on Friday, Fight Livelihood and Robert Kennedy expressed their deep concerns at the recent physical assault by Moroccan occupation forces on Aminatu Haidar, who was peacefully protesting on 5th of December against the new attacks on her colleague and human rights defender. On the diplomatic front, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a decision reaffirming the rights of the Sahrawi people to self-determination in accordance with the provisions of the United Nations Charter and Resolution 1514 on the Declaration on the Granting of Independence, the colonial countries and peoples. The participants in the 45th Conference of Support and Solidarity with the Sahrawi People called on Saturday the UN and Morocco's allies to act and end the colonial war imposed by the Moroccan regime on the Sahrawi people. More details with Manal Maafa.
Participants in the 45th UCOCO conference were unanimous in denouncing the crimes committed against the Sahrawi people. During this meeting, the Sahrawi people assured that they did not want to go to war, but that they were forced into picking up weapons, and that after Morocco's violation of the ceasefire agreement in El Gargarat buffer zone. The President of the European Coordination for the Support and Solidarity with the Sahrawi People recalls the rights of the Sahrawi people. It is high time to act against the Moroccan aggression, an aggression that shifted in a matter of a few months from a so-called peace negotiation, which no longer exists, into a complete state of war and repression, and the direct use of weapons and drones supplied by the Zionist entity in order to further repress the Sahrawi people and control the territories, which recently resulted in the killing of Algerian truck drivers who were on a working mission in the region. So there is an obvious radical change, and we will take action to deal with it and make sure that the Sahrawi people's voice is heard. This conference coincides with the celebration of the International Day of Human Rights. The streets of the Spanish city of Zaragoza witnessed hundreds of demonstrators who took the streets to denounce the aggression committed by the Moroccan occupation. Today, we are protesting in solidarity with the Sahrawi people and denounce their rights for self-determination. The same atmosphere prevailed in the occupied city of Smara, where demonstrators called the Moroccan occupier to stop its aggression against the Sahrawi people. They also called the United Nations to assume its historical responsibility towards the Sahrawi people and organize a referendum for self-determination.
In a letter sent on Friday to the Moroccan government, 30 members of the European Parliament expressed their concern about the human rights situation in the Kingdom of Morocco, and in particular in the Rif region. They called on the Moroccan government to immediately and unconditionally release all political prisoners. The European Parliament stated that freedom of expression is particularly subject to strong pressure Journalists and citizens who openly criticize the authorities about the widespread corruption and lack of basic human rights in the country run the risk of being prosecuted. In Morocco, the human rights situation has known for several weeks a flagrant degradation on so many levels, causing an imbalance of power in favor of the Makhzen regime and the forces opposite to rights and freedoms. The details with Manal Maafa.
وتحياتي لاي واحد صمت اليوم وقمعتونا وسجنتونا وسحبتونا وسجنتونا ويا نظام رفع قمعك عن شعبنا ويا نظام رفع قمعك عن شعبنا وقمعتونا وسجنتونا.
Such degradation has been clearly identified, according to a Moroccan Human Rights Association, by numerous indicators, such as a decline in the freedom of the press and expression, in the quality of justice and respect for the law, as well as in many economic, social, cultural and environmental rights, including the rights of certain groups of individuals. Human rights violations in Morocco continue to raise concerns for organizations around the world. Indeed, on October 19th, the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Observatory issued alerts of violations of human rights in Morocco under the new government, while calling upon Morocco's high authorities in particular to abandon resorting to such practices in addressing several social and economic issues, in particular when it comes to voices opposing the normalization of relations with the Zionist entity. Other Moroccan associations, for their part, have been denouncing the way demonstrations and protests are repressed and the excessive use of force to disperse manifestors and protesters. In addition, several Moroccan cities continue to see protests demanding legitimate social and professional rights, respect for human rights and public freedoms.
After Algeria's scored team's qualification for the semi-finals of the 2022 Arab Cup, supporters and fans of our football team took to the streets to express their joy. A festive atmosphere prevailed across the national territory. Ladies and gentlemen, that was it for our news edition. Thanks for tuning in to our program. Good night.